Imagine standing at your mother's grave, 7 months pregnant, when your husband hands you divorce papers. Right there, at the funeral, in front of everyone. Now imagine that 30 seconds later, you discover your mother left you $500 million, and your husband just walked away from all of it. This is the true story of Vanessa Lawson, a woman who lost everything in one morning and gained the power to destroy everyone who betrayed her. But here's what makes this story different. Her mother had been planning this revenge for 6 months before she died. Every move, every trap, every devastating revelation. You're about to hear how a grieving widow turned the tables on her cheating husband, his manipulative family, and a con artist with a fake pregnancy. How she went from crying on a bathroom floor to orchestrating the most spectacular public takedown Atlanta has ever witnessed. And how she proved that the most dangerous weapon isn't anger, it's patience. But I'm warning you right now, this story has 3 massive plot twists that will leave you stunned. The ending? You won't see it coming. If you love stories about karma, justice, and women who refuse to stay broken, you're in exactly the right place. Hit that like button so others can find this story. Drop a comment telling me if you do what Vanessa did, and subscribe because I promise you've never heard a revenge story quite like this one. Now let's begin at the cemetery, where everything changed. The rain held off just long enough for Margaret Lawson's casket to be lowered into the Georgia clay. Oakland Cemetery sprawled across the Atlanta hillside, ancient oaks casting shadows over weathered headstones dating back to the Civil War. 30 mourners stood in a semicircle around the fresh grave, their black clothes stark against the gray November sky. Vanessa Lawson stood at the edge, 7 months pregnant, one hand resting on her swollen belly, while the other clutched a tissue that had disintegrated from overuse. Her face looked hollow, destroyed by a grief so complete it seemed to have consumed everything else. The baby kicked, a reminder that life continued even when it felt impossible. The priest's voice droned on. Ashes to ashes, dust to dust. We commend Margaret Lawson to God's eternal care. Beside her, David Reynolds checked his phone for the 3rd time in 5 minutes. Vanessa noticed but said nothing. Her husband of 2 years had been distant for months, but today of all days, she needed him to be present. She reached for his hand. It felt cold in hers, lifeless. Behind them, 30 feet back under a black umbrella that served no purpose since it wasn't raining, Linda and Robert Reynolds watched the proceedings with expressions that didn't quite match the solemnity of the occasion. Linda's mouth curved slightly at the corners. Not a smile exactly, but something close, something satisfied. In the crowd, a woman Vanessa vaguely recognized from David's office dabbed at her eyes with a tissue. Claudia something. She'd sent a sympathy card. Her hand rested on her stomach in a gesture Vanessa knew all too well, the unconscious, protective touch of early pregnancy. David's jaw clenched. He pulled his hand from Vanessa's and reached into his jacket. The movement was deliberate, practiced. He withdrew a manila envelope, official-looking and ominous. David? Vanessa whispered. What is that? He didn't answer. Instead, he turned to face her fully, blocking her view of the casket. His eyes held nothing, no warmth, no recognition of their shared history, no acknowledgement of the life growing inside her. Vanessa, his voice cut through the priest's prayer like a knife. Heads turned. The priest faltered mid-sentence. A ripple of confusion spread through the mourners. David handed her the envelope. Her hands shook as she took it. What is this? Divorce papers. The words came out flat, rehearsed. I already signed them. The world tilted. Vanessa staggered backward, and Sarah Mitchell, her best friend since college, caught her elbow. Around them, gasps echoed. Phones emerged from pockets. Someone started recording. What? Vanessa's voice cracked. David, what are you talking about? He looked away toward the line of parked cars beyond the graves. It's over. This marriage. Us. It's better this way. Better? The word came out strangled. My mother is being buried right now. I'm pregnant with your baby. You're doing this here? I know the timing isn't ideal, but waiting would only make it harder. His face twitched. Guilt or annoyance, impossible to tell. You're strong, Vanessa. You'll figure it out. Strong. He was calling her strong while destroying her at her mother's graveside. Vanessa became aware of eyes on them, all 30 mourners staring, some with shock, others with something darker. Judgment, curiosity, the hungry fascination of witnessing someone else's catastrophe. Why? Her voice came out hollow. Why are you doing this? David straightened his tie, still avoiding her eyes. Because I need you to understand this is final. I'm with Claudia now. The name hit like a physical blow. She's pregnant. She needs me. Vanessa's knees almost gave out. The co-worker, the woman whose text had lit up his phone at midnight, the one Vanessa had asked about, only to be told she was paranoid, insecure, imagining things. You're leaving me pregnant with your child for another woman who's also pregnant with your child? It's complicated. He shoved his hands in his pockets like this was a business transaction. I don't expect you to understand, but Claudia makes me happy. She makes me feel alive. He paused, searching for words that would cut deepest. You make me feel trapped. The whispers grew louder. Phones held higher. This would be on social media within minutes. Within an hour, the world would know that David Reynolds had served his pregnant wife divorce papers at her mother's funeral. You're making a mistake. Vanessa's voice turned cold, harder than she knew she was capable of. You have no idea what you're doing. David actually smiled, pitying, condescending. I know exactly what I'm doing. I'm choosing my happiness. Something you should try them. He turned and walked away. No hug, no apology, no acknowledgement of the vows broken or the life abandoned. His parents welcomed him with approving nods, like he'd done something honorable. A man in an expensive suit pushed through the crowd, distinguished, probably 60, carrying a briefcase that looked like it cost more than Vanessa's car. Mrs. Reynolds, he said quietly, I'm James Morrison, your mother's attorney. I need to speak with you immediately. Not now, Vanessa managed, please. I can't. Your mother left specific instructions. His voice was urgent but kind. She said if anything happened to her, you must know right now, before anyone else acts. He handed her a sealed envelope, Margaret's handwriting across the front, open immediately. Vanessa's hand shook as she tore it open. Inside was a single document, legal, official. The header swam in her vision until the numbers came into focus. Last will and testament, Margaret Lawson. Total estate value, $500 million. The paper slipped from her fingers. David, 20 feet away, turned back. Some instinct made him retrieve the fallen document. His eyes scanned it. The color drained from his face completely. 500 million? Linda Reynolds rushed over, snatched the paper from his hands. She read it. Her perfect composure cracked. This can't be real. Margaret was a bookkeeper. I don't understand. Vanessa looked at James Morrison. My mother worked for small businesses. She lived in a tiny apartment. She drove a 15-year-old car. Where did... Your mother was a genius, Mrs. Reynolds. James's voice carried across the suddenly silent cemetery. She built an empire in secret, and she built it to protect you. David looked between the paper and Vanessa, realization dawning in his eyes, the magnitude of his mistake becoming clear. Wait, Vanessa, we need to talk. I didn't know about... Something shifted in Vanessa's expression. She saw him clearly now, perhaps for the first time. The weakness, the manipulation, the cruel calculation of what he'd done. You want to talk now? Her voice cut like glass. After you just handed me divorce papers at my mother's funeral? I didn't know about the money. Desperation crept into his tone. If I had known, if you had known, steel entered her voice for the first time. So you only want me if I have money? David realized what he'd said. No, that's not what I meant. Vanessa picked up the divorce papers from where they'd fallen. She thrust them at him. Sign this, now. He froze, confused. You want it out? You're out, and you'll never see a penny of my mother's money. Vern, she turned to the attorney. Make sure of it, whatever it takes. James Morrison allowed himself a slight smile. Your mother already did, ma'am. The prenup his parents insisted on protects your inheritance completely. He has zero claim. Linda's face, the moment she realized her own greed had destroyed her son's access to $500 million, was almost beautiful in its horror. Vanessa's voice carried across the cemetery. My mother's funeral is over, Anyone who wants to pay respects to her memory is welcome to stay. Anyone here for the circus can leave. She turned her back on David and walked to Margaret's casket, placed her hand on the polished wood. "I understand now, Mom," she whispered. "Thank you." 3 months earlier, everything had been different. Vanessa and David sat in an upscale restaurant for their second anniversary. Soft lighting, expensive wine, sparkling cider for Vanessa, and a feeling that something was wrong beneath the surface. "Everything okay?" Vanessa reached for his hand across the table. David's phone buzzed. Again, he glanced at it. "Claudia, work," and silenced it without meeting her eyes. "Just work stuff. You know how it is." She knew, but she also knew that work didn't usually text at 9 p.m. on a Friday night. 2 weeks later, Vanessa held a positive pregnancy test, her hands shaking with nervous excitement. Surprise? David's face, she would remember this moment later, analyzing it for signs she'd missed. His smile looked forced. His eyes showed something else. Not joy, panic maybe, or resentment. That's great, honey. Wow. The hug felt stiff, performative. Over his shoulder, Vanessa felt doubt creeping in like cold water. Margaret met David's parents for the first time that same week. In her modest apartment, she served tea while Linda and Robert Reynolds remained standing, a power move Vanessa recognized but couldn't address. "Margaret, it's lovely to finally see where Vanessa grew up." Linda's voice dripped condescension. "So cozy. I believe in living within my means." Margaret's tone stayed pleasant but firm. "Keeps life simple." Robert glanced around dismissively. Yes, very simple." After they left, Margaret pulled Vanessa aside. "Something's wrong with that boy. Watch him." "Mom, you just don't know him." Vanessa felt defensive, protective. "He's different when we're alone." Margaret's eyes held knowledge, pain, experience. "People don't change who they are, honey. They just show you different versions. Make sure you know which version you married." The doctor's office was too bright, too cold. Margaret sat across from a man who looked too young to be delivering this kind of news. "Stage 4 pancreatic cancer." His voice was gentle. "I'm sorry, Margaret. We're looking at 3 to 6 months, maybe less." Margaret absorbed this with eerie calm. "How long before I can't manage my own affairs?" "You'll have good days and bad days, maybe 8 to 12 weeks of relative clarity." "Then I have work to do." She met with James Morrison and Detective Michael Rivera the next day. "I need you to watch my son-in-law, David Reynolds. Something's wrong." James shifted in his chair. "What makes you think?" "A mother knows." Margaret's voice was steady. "I've been watching Vanessa's face when she thinks no one's looking. She's not happy. She's scared of being unhappy. There's a difference." Detective Rivera leaned forward. "What are we looking for?" "Affair, financial irregularities, anything suggesting he's going to leave her. Because if he does, I want to make sure she has ammunition." The hospice room smelled of antiseptic and dying flowers. Margaret lay in bed, frail but lucid. Vanessa, 6 months pregnant now, held her hand. "There's a key." Margaret's voice came out weak but urgent. "In my jewelry box. Safe deposit box 447 at First Atlanta Bank." "Mom, don't talk like this. Listen to me in surprising strength. Everything you need is there. Trust no one until they've earned it. Protect yourself and my granddaughter." "How do you know it's a girl?" Margaret smiled weakly. "A grandmother knows. Promise me, Vanessa. Promise you'll be strong." "I promise. Show them what a Lawson woman is made of." Her breathing grew shallow. "I love you more than..." The monitors flatlined. The sound would haunt Vanessa for months. She collapsed onto her mother's chest, wailing. Behind her, David stood in the doorway on his phone, barely present even in this moment. The funeral came 2 days later. Everything Vanessa had feared, everything Margaret had warned her about, crystallized in those terrible moments at the graveside. After David walked away, after the attorney revealed the inheritance, the mourners scattered. Some offered hollow condolences that felt like insults. Others avoided her eyes completely, as if betrayal was contagious. Sarah Mitchell, still in her nurse's scrubs, having come straight from her shift, pushed through the crowd. "What the hell just happened?" Vanessa couldn't answer, couldn't cry, couldn't feel anything except the weight of the baby in her belly and the crushing realization that in one morning, she'd lost her mother and her marriage. He left me, she finally managed, right now at my mom's grave. Sarah looked at the will document still clutched in James Morrison's hand. Is that how much? I don't know. I don't care. Vanessa's voice came out numb. My mother is dead. My marriage is over. I just want to disappear. But disappearing wasn't an option. By the time Sarah drove Vanessa to the house she'd shared with David, the lockout had already happened. The key didn't work. He changed the locks. Through the window, Vanessa could see empty spaces where furniture had been, bare walls where photos once hung, a note taped to the door. Vanessa, my attorney will contact you regarding division of assets. Please do not attempt to contact me directly. Remove your belongings by Friday or they will be discarded. David, neighbors watched from porches, whispering. One approached with passive-aggressive concern. Oh, honey, we saw the moving truck yesterday. Are you two okay? Vanessa said nothing, walked back to Sarah's car with whatever dignity remained. I have nowhere to go. Yes, you do. Sarah's voice was fierce. You're coming home with me. Sarah's apartment was small, cramped, but safe. Vanessa sat on the pull-out couch, staring at nothing while Sarah made tea. The TV played in the background. Local drama goes viral. Investment banker serves divorce papers at funeral. Phone footage from the cemetery. The hashtag, had that divorced at funeral, was trending. Comments scrolled past. She must have done something to deserve it. He looks so done with her. I get it. Play stupid games, win stupid prizes. The baby is the real victim here. Vanessa's phone showed 87 missed calls, over 200 texts, all vultures wanting gossip, details, confirmation of her humiliation. She placed her hand on her belly. I'm so sorry. I failed you before you even got here. That night, Sarah found Vanessa on the bathroom floor, 7 months pregnant, crying so hard she could barely breathe. My mother is dead. My husband is gone. I'm about to be homeless with a baby. What am I supposed to do? Sarah slid down beside her, held her close. You survive. That's what you do. One breath at a time. I don't know how. Then I'll breathe for both of us until you remember. They sat there for an hour, two women on a cold bathroom floor, holding each other against the weight of a world that felt too cruel to endure. But they would endure. They had to. Because Margaret Lawson hadn't spent 30 years building an empire just to have her daughter give up. And somewhere in that safe deposit box was everything Vanessa needed to understand that this wasn't the end. It was the beginning of the most spectacular comeback Atlanta would ever witness. David's Instagram post appeared that night, a sunset photo, artistic and carefully filtered. The caption, sometimes choosing happiness means making hard decisions. Hashtag new beginnings, 2,847 likes. Comments flooding in. So brave. You deserve happiness. Real man right here. Claudia posted an hour later, her hand on her flat stomach. Life's unexpected blessings. Had baby. On the way, finding love. The comments celebrated them, congratulated them, called them courageous for following their hearts. Nobody mentioned the pregnant wife left behind at a funeral. That part didn't fit the narrative they were crafting. Vanessa's mentions told a different story. Homewrecker drove him away. Gold digger finally exposed. Bet she's lying about the pregnancy. Each notification felt like a dagger. Sarah finally took Vanessa's phone and turned it off. Stop reading that poison. But the poison had already spread. The letter from David's attorney arrived 3 days later. Mrs. Reynolds, my client requests swift resolution to marital dissolution. Refusal to cooperate will result in protracted court proceedings where fitness for custody will be questioned. Suggest immediate signature to avoid unnecessary pain. Regards, Mitchell and Stein, attorneys at law. Sarah read it over Vanessa's shoulder. They're threatening to take your baby. Vanessa felt dead inside. Maybe they should. What kind of mother am I if I can't even protect myself? Stop that. Sarah's voice turned fierce. You're grieving. You're pregnant. You're allowed to fall apart, but you are not allowed to give up. The following afternoon, Vanessa went through her mother's belongings, desperate for something, anything that felt like Margaret. The jewelry box sat on Sarah's coffee table. Costume pieces mostly, nothing valuable. Then she found the hidden compartment in the bottom. A small brass key, an envelope marked Vanessa, emergency only. Her hands shook as she opened it. My dearest girl, if you're reading this, I'm gone. And I pray you never needed this letter. But I know people. I know how they operate when they smell blood in the water. Safe deposit box 447, First Atlanta Bank. The key is enclosed. Inside, you'll find documents that will change everything. I've spent 30 years building something nobody knows about. I built it for you. For moments exactly like this. Trust James Morrison, he's handled everything. Trust Detective Rivera, he's been watching. But trust no one else until they've proven worthy. Remember, patience is the greatest weapon you'll ever have. Don't react, plan. I love you more than words can express. Show them what a Lawson woman is made of. Mom, Vanessa read it 3 times. Each word carefully chosen, each instruction deliberate. I need to go to the bank. Sarah checked her watch. It's 6 p.m. First thing tomorrow. Vanessa clutched the key. Will you come with me? Of course, but B, what do you think is in there? Vanessa stared at her mother's handwriting. I have no idea. But my mother doesn't do anything without a reason. First Atlanta Bank occupied a marble building downtown, all columns and authority. The safe deposit room felt cold, sterile, private. The attendant brought box 447 and left them alone. Vanessa inserted the key with shaking hands. The lock clicked. She opened it. Inside were thick folders, legal documents, account statements, property deeds, evidence of a life her mother had hidden for 30 years. Oh my God. Sarah's voice barely registered. Vanessa pulled out the first folder. Commercial property, Atlanta portfolio. Total value, $87 million. The second folder. Tech investments, various holdings. Current value, $142 million. A third. Private equity stakes. Value, $94 million. Statement after statement. Deed after deed. A financial empire built in absolute secrecy. How is this possible? Vanessa's voice broke. My mother worked as a bookkeeper. She clipped coupons. She lived in a tiny apartment and drove a car older than me. At the bottom of the box, another letter. You're probably in shock. Good. Use that shock as fuel. Every dollar is legal, every investment documented, every property titled in family trusts with you as sole beneficiary. David has no claim. The prenup his mother insisted on protects you completely. The irony is delicious, isn't it? James Morrison has managed this for 20 years. Catherine Blake is my financial strategist. Detective Rivera has been investigating David for 6 months. I suspected something before I got sick. Everything you need to fight back is here. But remember, don't fight angry, fight smart. They think they destroyed you. Let them believe it. For now, Mom, Vanessa sat in stunned silence. A full minute passed, then 2. V? Sarah touched her shoulder. Say something. A new look entered Vanessa's eyes. Not grief anymore. Purpose. My mother knew. She knew he'd do this. How could she? Vanessa stood, gathering documents with steady hands. She didn't know exactly, but she knew someone would try to use me eventually. So she prepared me to fight back. She met Sarah's eyes, and now I'm going to do exactly that. James Morrison's law office occupied the 40th floor of a glass tower with the sweeping views of Atlanta. The man himself greeted them with professional warmth. Mrs. Reynolds, or should I say, Mrs. Lawson, your mother mentioned you'd reclaim your maiden name. I haven't decided yet. Well, whoever you choose to be, you're now one of the wealthiest women in Georgia. He pulled up a presentation on an enormous screen. Charts, graphs, 30 years of brilliant investing compressed into visual form. Your mother spent 3 decades building this. She started with $50,000, inheritance from her mother, and turned it into $500 million through brilliant, patient investing. But she lived so modestly. Why hide it? Protection. She watched wealthy people get used, manipulated, targeted. She wanted you to have security without being a target yourself. He clicked to the next slide showing complex trust structures. Everything is in irrevocable trust with you as sole beneficiary. David has zero claim, even though you were married when she passed. The prenup Linda insisted on specifically excludes inheritance. Sarah spoke quietly. Linda protected Vanessa by accident. James allowed himself a smile. Margaret called it cosmic justice. They were so focused on protecting David's modest trust fund, they accidentally protected Vanessa's massive inheritance. What can I do with all this? Practically, whatever you want. The assets generate approximately $2.3 million monthly in passive income. You never have to work another day. He paused meaningfully. Or you can use it to destroy the people who tried to destroy you. James pulled out a thick folder marked Detective Rivera, Confidential. Your mother hired Detective Rivera 6 months before she died. She suspected something was wrong with David. She was right. Photos spilled out across the conference table. David and Claudia at a hotel in October, 10 months ago. At a restaurant in November, holding hands. At her apartment in December. A timeline spreadsheet showing the affair began nearly a year before the funeral. Not recently, as David claimed. Vanessa's hands shook as she touched the photos. 10 months. He's been with her for 10 months. James pulled out printed text messages. Claudia to friend, dated 8 months ago. Found my mark, investment banker, rich family, unhappy marriage. He's weak, perfect target. Just need to get pregnant and he's mine. Or should I say, his money is mine. Friend, the pregnancy trick again? Didn't that get you in trouble in Vegas? Claudia, this time I'm smarter. Found tutorials online for fake bumps. Got fake ultrasound apps. He'll never know. Vanessa read the text, face hardening with each word. Detective Rivera found 7 similar cons in Claudia's past. Her real name is Claudia Bennington. She's wanted in Nevada for fraud. And David believed her. Men like David believe what they want to believe. She gave him permission to leave his marriage without guilt. He took it. More documents emerged, a bank statement showing a wire transfer from Linda Reynolds to Claudia Foster. $15,000, 3 weeks before Margaret's funeral. Memo, consulting fee. His mother paid her? We have email exchanges between Linda and Claudia planning the timing. James read from a printout. Linda to Claudia, the feud was the perfect time. She'll be too grief-stricken to fight back. Make sure David doesn't waver. Something broke inside Vanessa. Not her spirit, something else. The last remnant of hope that this had been spontaneous, unplanned, anything other than calculated cruelty. They planned to do it at my mother's grave. Sarah's voice shook with fury. This is conspiracy. This is criminal. It's prosecutable. If you want to pursue charges, Vanessa closed the folder carefully. Not yet. My mother said fight smart, not angry. She met James's eyes. What else do you have? The next meeting happened in a luxury office overlooking Peachtree Street. Catherine Blake, 42 and sharp as broken glass, reviewed Vanessa's portfolio on multiple screens. Your mother was one of the most brilliant clients I've ever had. She understood something most people don't. Wealth isn't about spending, it's about leverage. I don't know what that means. It means money is power, but only if you use it strategically. Catherine's eyes gleamed. Your mother built this to protect you. Now we can use it to make sure the people who hurt you understand exactly what they lost. Sarah shifted uncomfortably. Are we talking about revenge? I prefer consequences. Catherine smiled. But we need a strategy. 3 options. She pulled up a presentation. Option 1, stay invisible. Live quietly. David never knows what he walked away from. Option 2, go public immediately. Shock and awe. Destroy his reputation overnight. Option 3, her smile widened. Margaret's preferred method. Build your public presence slowly. Let him see glimpses. Drive him insane wondering where the money came from. Then, when he's completely unsure of himself, we reveal everything in one devastating moment. Why would we wait? Because revelation without context is just gossip. But if you spend months becoming respected, admired, visible in Atlanta society, joining boards, making donations, being photographed with the mayor, then when we expose what David did, it's not gossip, it's news. She paused for effect. And news travels further than gossip ever could. Vanessa understood. My mother planned this, every step. She gave you the playbook, but you have to decide if you want to run the plays. Vanessa looked at Sarah, who nodded slowly. I'll support whatever you choose. But I'll be honest, I want to see them burn. Vanessa turned back to Catherine. Tell me exactly what we need to do. 6 weeks passed in a blur of transformation. Vanessa, 8 months pregnant now, worked with Catherine to build a public presence that would make David Reynolds question everything he thought he knew. A personal shopper at Neiman Marcus helped her select designer maternity wear. Not flashy, Catherine insisted on subtle elegance. You're not hiding anymore. Own it. A professional stylist worked magic with Vanessa's hair. Nothing dramatic, but the difference was profound. She looked like money. Old money. The kind that didn't need to announce itself. The first public appearance was a charity luncheon for the Children's Hospital. Vanessa entered the ballroom at the Ritz-Carlton and conversation stopped. 800 guests, most of whom had never seen her before, watched her move to a VIP table near the front. She wrote a check for $500,000, made sure the donation was very public. The society columnist photographed everything. Other attendees whispered, "Who is she?" "I heard she's Margaret Lawson's daughter." "Margaret, the bookkeeper, how does she have that kind of money?" The whispers were exactly what Catherine wanted. Questions without answers. Mystery that demanded explanation. Over the next month, Vanessa appeared at 3 more events. A gallery opening where she purchased art worth $75,000. A women's shelter board meeting where she spoke about understanding powerlessness. A mayor's breakfast where she sat 2 seats from the city council president. Society pages began running her photo. Mysterious philanthropist emerges. New face in Atlanta society. The woman everyone wants to meet. The mayor's charity luncheon brought 800 guests to the Ritz-Carlton ballroom. Vanessa arrived exactly on time, was escorted to a VIP table near the front, and settled in next to Marcus Cameron, a tech entrepreneur whose company Margaret had invested in years ago. Linda Reynolds sat in the back with her country club friends. Her fork stopped midway to her mouth when she saw Vanessa. "Excuse me," Linda said tightly. She approached Vanessa's table with a smile that didn't reach her eyes. "Vanessa, this is unexpected." Vanessa looked up, pleasant and unruffled. "Hello, Linda. How are you?" Linda's gaze swept over the designer dress, the jewelry that looked real because it was. "I'm confused, very confused. What are you doing here?" "I was invited. I'm a donor." "Where is this money coming from?" Linda's voice dropped low. "Your mother was a bookkeeper." Vanessa smiled. "My mother was many things people didn't understand. Turns out I inherited more than her furniture." "How much more?" "Enough?" Vanessa returned to her conversation with Marcus Cameron, effectively dismissing Linda. "Is there something specific you wanted, Linda? I have people to meet." Linda's face showed she was losing control of the narrative she'd so carefully crafted. "David told me about your mother's money. We're looking into it." "Look all you want." Vanessa's tone stayed pleasant. "Everything's legal. Everything's documented. Everything's mine." She paused. "Give David my regards. Or don't. I really don't care anymore." She turned away. Linda stood there, powerless, before retreating to her table with shaking hands. David's temporary apartment was small, generic, a massive downgrade from the house he'd shared with Vanessa. He paced while talking to his mother on the phone. She was at the mayor's luncheon, sitting with Marcus Cameron and the city council president. What the hell is happening? "I don't know." Linda's voice crackled through the speaker. "But we need to find out where this money came from. If Margaret's assets were illegally obtained, you think she was laundering money or something? I think we need to investigate every possibility. Your father is calling our accountant." Claudia emerged from the bedroom wearing baggy clothes, hand on her flat stomach. She was supposedly 4.5 months pregnant now, but showed no visible signs. "What's wrong?" "Vanessa, she's all over social media, donating hundreds of thousands, appearing at events. Everyone's talking about her." "I thought you said her mother had nothing." "So did I." David's voice rose. "But apparently she had millions, maybe hundreds of millions, and I signed away any claim to it." Claudia's face showed calculation. Her con had just gotten complicated. "Well, you have me now. You have our baby. That's what matters. David looked at her stomach, really looked for the first time. When's your next doctor's appointment? Next week. Was she? I want to come. Baby, I told you, my doctor prefers. I don't care what your doctor prefers. His voice turned firm. I'm coming. Claudia swallowed. Trapped. James Morrison's email arrived with perfect timing. David's attorney is requesting a meeting. They want to discuss expedited settlement terms. Vanessa sat across from James in his office. Meaning? Meaning he wants out of the divorce quickly. He's offering you full custody, no support obligations, complete clean break. Sarah, sitting beside Vanessa, sounded excited. That's everything you wanted. Why now? Vanessa asked cautiously. He's seeing your public profile, realizing what he walked away from. He wants to end this before you can use the divorce proceedings to expose him further. Catherine appeared on the video screen. Take it. This is better than dragging him through court. Vanessa considered. You really think so? You get grace, you get your freedom. You get to rebuild without him anywhere near you. Sometimes winning isn't about destruction. It's about walking away with what matters. Sarah nodded. She's right. You won, V. Take the win. Vanessa felt relief flooding through her for the first time in weeks. Okay, accept the settlement. Let's end this, Webb. That evening, Vanessa and Sarah celebrated in the estate Vanessa had moved into, Margaret's real home, hidden behind gates and old oaks. 6 bedrooms, a library that smelled like leather and wisdom, gardens that seemed to go on forever. Sarah raised her glass of sparkling cider. To Margaret, who planned everything perfectly. Vanessa clinked glasses. To Mom, and to being done with David Reynolds forever. They drank. Vanessa felt something she hadn't felt in months. Peace, or something close to it. Maybe I don't need the big revenge. Maybe this is enough. I have my baby coming. I have money. I have freedom. You sound relieved. I am. I just want to move forward. Start healing. Focus on being a mother. Her phone buzzed. Text from James. Settlement papers ready for signature tomorrow. Vanessa smiled at Sarah. It's really over. She walked to the fireplace where she'd placed the evidence folders, all the photos, texts, documentation of betrayal. She pulled them out. I don't need these anymore. Sarah hesitated. Are you sure? Once you destroy them? I'm sure. I want to stop being angry. I want to stop wanting revenge. I want to heal. She placed folders on the coffee table and began shredding pages into the recycling bin. What Sarah didn't know was that these were copies. The originals remained locked in James's vault. But Vanessa staged the shredding carefully, knowing David would eventually hear about it. Her mother had taught her well, never destroy your only leverage, but sometimes you have to make them think you did. The Reynolds family home looked the same as always from the outside. Inside, Linda, Robert, and a high-powered forensic accountant reviewed documents spread across the dining room table. Margaret Lawson's tax filings from 15 years ago show irregularities, the accountant said carefully. Robert leaned forward. What kind of irregularities? Capital gains reported don't match up with asset acquisitions in the following years. It's possible she was concealing income sources. Linda's expression turned predatory. Tax evasion? I'm not saying that definitively, but there's enough here to warrant an IRS investigation. If someone were to file a complaint, Linda looked at Robert. Do it. If we're wrong, we won't be. And even if we are, an investigation will freeze her accounts for months, maybe years, long enough for David to file for custody before she can afford to fight. The notification appeared on Vanessa's phone 3 days later. Local philanthropist under federal investigation. IRS opens probe into Margaret Lawson estate. Her blood ran cold. Media reports flooded in. Questions raised about source of Vanessa Lawson's wealth. Anonymous tip leads to tax fraud investigation. Did deceased bookkeeper evade millions in taxes? Social media erupted. Knew something was fishy. Drug money? Fraud money? She seemed too good to be true. Within hours, the call started. The charity board chair, apologetic but firm. Vanessa, we need you to step aside until this clears up, just temporarily, for the organization's reputation. But I didn't do anything wrong. My mother didn't. I believe you, but perception matters. I'm sorry. 3 more calls, same message. All her charity positions suspended. James Morrison arrived at Vanessa's estate the next morning, his face grim. David's withdrawn the settlement offer. He's filed an emergency motion. He handed her the papers. Vanessa read with shaking hands. He's claiming your fortune is illegally obtained. He's asking for full custody of the baby with you getting supervised visitation only. On what grounds? That you're inheriting proceeds of tax fraud. That you're an unfit environment for a child. The hearing is in 2 weeks, right after your due date. Sarah jumped up, furious. They timed this. They waited until she's about to give birth. The judge issued a temporary order. If the baby is born before the custody hearing, CPS will place the infant in temporary foster care until the hearing resolves. Vanessa felt the world collapsing. They're going to take my baby? They're going to take Grace? We'll fight this. But the IRS investigation complicates things. Federal investigations take 6 to 12 months minimum. During that time, my daughter is in foster care? She couldn't breathe. 8.5 months pregnant, surrounded by legal documents that threatened to steal her child before she even got to meet her. That night, Vanessa sat alone in her bedroom, 8.5 months pregnant, legal papers scattered around her on the floor. Everything was falling apart. Again. Worse than before. She pulled out her phone. David's number still there. Her finger hovered over the call button. Maybe if she gave up the money, signed over everything, maybe then they'd let her keep her baby. Maybe that's what a good mother did. Protected her child at any cost. She looked at the photo on her nightstand, Margaret holding baby Vanessa. Her mother's eyes seemed to look directly at her. What would you do, Mom? Behind the photo frame, she saw something. Another envelope, marked if they attack legally. She tore it open with shaking hands. Inside, IRS clearance letters from 15 years ago. Every penny accounted for. A note from Margaret. I knew they'd try this. Tax attorney David Sheffield has copies of everything. Call him immediately. A second note. And I found something on them too. Use only if necessary. Vanessa grabbed her phone and dialed the number. Mrs. Lawson. The attorney's voice was steady, reassuring. Your mother retained me 10 years ago for exactly this scenario. Can you stop the investigation? The IRS must investigate once a complaint is filed, but I can expedite the process with the documentation I have. We can get this resolved in 4 to 6 weeks instead of months. That's not fast enough. The custody hearing is in 2 weeks, but I can file for an emergency stay of the custody proceedings. The family court judge can't rule on unfit environment when the investigation is ongoing and you haven't been charged with anything. Vanessa breathed for the first time in hours. There's something else, Sheffield continued. Your mother's investigation into the Reynolds family found irregularities. Robert Reynolds runs the Reynolds Family Charitable Foundation. Over the past 8 years, he's embezzled $2.3 million from it. Fake vendor payments, ghost employees, shell companies. Can we prove it? Your mother already did. Bank statements, tax filings, witness statements from former employees. It's all documented. He paused. She didn't want to use it unless absolutely necessary. She said fighting dirty should always be a last resort. Vanessa's voice turned cold. They tried to take my baby. It's necessary. The War Council assembled in Vanessa's living room the next morning. James Morrison, Catherine Blake via video, tax attorney David Sheffield on speakerphone, Sarah pacing near the windows, and Detective Michael Rivera appearing in person for the first time. Rivera placed thick folders on the coffee table. Mid-40s, the kind of competent authority that came from years of financial crimes investigation. I've been investigating for 8 months. Here's what we have. He opened the folders methodically. David and Claudia, affair started 10 months before the funeral. Premeditated, documented, undeniable. Claudia Bennington, 7 prior fraud charges across 3 states, 5 aliases, professional con artist. Linda Reynolds paid Claudia $15,000 3 weeks before the funeral. Wire transfer, clear memo, consulting fee. Robert Reynolds embezzled $2.3 million from his family's charitable foundation over 8 years. The IRS complaint filed against Margaret's estate filed from Linda Reynolds' home computer. IP address traced. That's filing a false federal report, a felony. Vanessa absorbed this. So we have them, on multiple charges. Yes, but there's a complication. What complication? The judge assigned to your custody case, Judge Patricia Morgan, plays golf weekly with Linda Reynolds. They're friends. Sarah exploded. That's judicial bias. She needs to recuse herself. James shook his head. She won't, not without pressure. And filing a complaint would take weeks we don't have. Catherine's voice came through the screen. So we don't go to her court. Everyone turned to the monitor. What? We hold our own trial in public at the gala. Vanessa frowned. What gala? The Margaret Lawson Foundation inaugural gala, scheduled 3 days after your due date. 800 guests, every media outlet in Atlanta invited. Live streamed to 50,000 plus viewers. James looked skeptical. We can't just present evidence at a charity event. No, but I can. Rivera leaned forward. If I submit all evidence to the district attorney's office first, following proper procedures, and then we make it public at the gala, it's not vigilante justice, it's transparency. Understanding dawned on Vanessa. We expose them publicly, then they get arrested. Exactly, Catherine said. And with that much public attention, Judge Morgan can't give them preferential treatment. She'd be watched too closely. But the custody hearing is before the gala. James met her eyes. Then you don't show up. Silence filled the room. If you fail to appear, the judge has to reschedule. It buys us 2 weeks, enough time to make everything public first. That's contempt of court, Sarah protested. Yes, you could be arrested, but I'd rather you get arrested after the truth comes out than lose grace before we can fight back. Vanessa looked around at her team, her mother's team, the people Margaret had assembled to protect her daughter when she couldn't do it herself. I'm risking jail? You're risking contempt charges, usually a fine, maybe probation, but not losing your daughter. Rivera spoke up. If the DA agrees, and with this evidence they will, warrants will be issued. We time the arrest for maximum impact. At the gala, on camera. Vanessa placed her hand on her belly. Grace kicked, as if voting for action. My mother planned for this, all of it. Catherine nodded. She gave you the ammunition, but you have to decide if you'll use it. Long pause. Vanessa thinking through every angle, every risk, every potential outcome. Set it up. The gala, the DA meeting, everything. She stood, holding her belly. They came for my baby. Now they get to see what happens when you threaten a Lawson woman's child. Labor started on a Thursday morning, 3 days past Vanessa's due date. 7 hours of pain, Sarah coaching her through every contraction. Between contractions, Vanessa gasped. What if they take her? What if I only get to hold her once? That's not going to happen. We have a plan. Plans fail. What if... Sarah grabbed her hand fierce. Listen to me. You are Margaret Lawson's daughter. You are stronger than they could ever imagine. And you are going to hold your baby and fight for her with everything you have. Final push. A baby's cry filled the room. It's a girl! They placed her on Vanessa's chest. Tiny, perfect, screaming with healthy lungs. Grace stopped crying at her mother's voice and opened her eyes. Hi, Grace. Hi, baby girl. I'm your mama. And I promise, nobody is taking you from me. David stood outside the nursery the next day, looking through the window at baby Grace. Security wouldn't let him in. Vanessa had barred him. His face showed something Vanessa hadn't seen in months. Genuine emotion. Something breaking in him as he saw his daughter for the first time. He called Vanessa's room. What do you want, David? I saw her. Through the window. She's beautiful. Did you call to tell me that? I called to say I made a mistake. The biggest mistake of my life. And I want to be a father. Can we talk, please? Vanessa looked at Grace sleeping in her arms. Come tomorrow. Visiting hours are 10 to 8. Really? Yes, but David, if you're coming to threaten me or manipulate me or try to take her, don't. I won't. I just want to meet my daughter. After hanging up, Sarah gave her a look. You're letting him visit? No, but I want him to think I am. I want him to show up tomorrow and find me gone. I want him to know what it feels like when someone he loves disappears. Sarah smiled. Your mother's daughter. Damn right. The custody hearing happened without Vanessa. Judge Patricia Morgan sat on the bench, David and his lawyer present, Claudia beside him in a dress designed to hide her supposedly 6-month pregnancy. Vanessa's chair remained empty. Counsel, where is your client? James Morrison stood. Your Honor, Mrs. Lawson gave birth 48 hours ago and is experiencing postpartum complications. We request a continuance. David's lawyer jumped up. Your Honor, this is clearly a delay tactic. We move for immediate. I'm granting a 2-week continuance. But Mrs. Lawson, if you fail to appear again, I will issue a bench warrant. The gavel fell. David looked panicked, finally understanding he was losing control. The news alert came that afternoon. IRS closes investigation into Lawson estate. No wrongdoing found. Anonymous complaint determined to be malicious and unfounded. Media coverage shifted. Philanthropist cleared of all allegations. False accusations against grieving mother. Who filed the fraudulent complaint? Public opinion swung back to Vanessa hard. The narrative David and his family that had tried to craft was collapsing. David appeared at Vanessa's estate 3 days later. Security called first. Vanessa, recovered from birth and looking strong, agreed to see him. He entered the living room carrying flowers, looking broken in a way she'd never seen. Sarah stayed nearby, security at the door. Thank you for seeing me. Vanessa's voice was cool. You have 10 minutes. He approached slowly, looking at Grace in Vanessa's arms. Tears filled his eyes. Can I hold her? Vanessa hesitated, then nodded. She handed Grace to him carefully, watching his face as he held his daughter for the first time. David completely broke down. She's perfect. God, she's so perfect. Yes, she is. He looked at Vanessa through tears. I was so wrong about everything. Claudia, my mother, the divorce, all of it. I was weak and selfish and cruel. Yes, you were. Vanessa's bluntness seemed to surprise him. I know I don't deserve forgiveness, but I'm asking anyway. For Grace's sake, she deserves to have her father. Vanessa watched him holding their daughter, saw genuine remorse, saw the man she'd once loved buried somewhere under the mistakes. What about Claudia? It's over. I ended it. Well, I mean, because I finally saw what she is, what they all are. My mother, my father, they used me, used you, used our marriage as a weapon. He paused. I want to make this right, however long it takes. Sarah gave Vanessa a warning look, but Vanessa's resolve was wavering. What are you asking for? Couples counseling, a chance to rebuild trust. Not marriage, not yet, but maybe co-parenting, a real relationship with Grace. He handed Grace back to Vanessa gently. I'll sign whatever you want, give you whatever you want. I just want to be in her life, in your life, if you'll let me. Vanessa looked at Grace, then at David. I need to think about it. Of course, take all the time you need. He stood to leave, turned back. Vanessa, I'm sorry for everything, especially what I did at your mother's grave. That was unforgivable. But I'm going to spend the rest of my life trying to make it right. After he left, Sarah immediately protested. V, you can't seriously be considering Grace deserves to know her father. And maybe people can change. Maybe he's really trying. Or maybe this is another manipulation. Maybe, but I have to try for her. Over the next 2 weeks, David became a fixture at the estate. Couples counseling sessions where he took full responsibility. Visits where he played with Grace while Vanessa watched cautiously. Family dinners that felt almost normal. Eventually, he moved into the guest house, separate from the main house, taking things slow. Media coverage was positive. Reconciliation for baby's sake. Second chances after betrayal. The public supported the healing narrative. Vanessa felt something she hadn't felt in months. Hope. Maybe the happy ending didn't require revenge. Maybe it just required healing. One evening in the library, David raised the idea that would prove fatal. What if we just drop the court case entirely? Joint custody, no lawyers, no judges, just us figuring it out. Really? I don't want to fight you anymore, V. I just want to be a father. Relief flooded through her. Okay, let's do that. They shook hands. David pulled her into a hug. She allowed it, feeling the weight of months lifting slightly. After he left, Vanessa looked at the evidence folders she'd kept locked in the library. The originals, not the copies she'd shredded. Maybe I don't need these anymore. Maybe it's time to let go of the anger. Sarah entered, saw what she was considering. Are you sure? I am. Grace is healthy. David's committed to being a good father. The custody case is dropped. This is what I wanted. She pulled out a few pages, started shredding them visibly, maintaining the appearance while keeping the bulk secured. She left shredded paper where David would see it later, evidence that Vanessa was moving on. Trust, but verify. That's what her mother would say. 3 days later, Vanessa brought dinner to the guest house where David was staying. Being kind, building trust. He was in the shower when she arrived. His phone sat on the counter. It buzzed, a text from Mom. Phase 2 complete. She destroyed the evidence. Moving to Phase 3. Friday at 2 p.m., Judge Morgan confirmed. Vanessa's blood ran cold. She picked up the phone, opened the messaging app with shaking hands. The text thread between Linda and David revealed everything. Linda, has she destroyed the investigation files yet? David, not yet, working on building trust. She's softening. Linda, work faster. We need those files gone before the gala. David, I hate this. Lying to her again. She's trying so hard to believe me. Linda, do you want your child or not? Do you want access to that money or not? Stop being weak. David, I know, you're right. Linda, once she destroys the evidence, we file emergency custody. Dr. Peterson will testify she has postpartum depression. Judge Morgan will rule in our favor. David, and then? Linda, then you have Grace, and through child support, access to Vanessa's fortune, exactly as planned. Vanessa kept scrolling, hands shaking. Photos of David meeting with Claudia yesterday at a coffee shop. Claudia, miss me? David, this is business only. When this is over, we split the money. Claudia, 50-50, like we agreed. David, yes, just need to get custody first. A group text between David, Linda, and Robert. Robert, the fake postpartum diagnosis is set. Dr. Peterson owes me from the country club matter. Linda, and Judge Morgan? Robert, she'll rule in David's favor. I've handled it. David, what about the gala? What if she goes public there? Linda, without evidence files, it's just her word against ours. No one will believe her, and we'll have Grace by then. The shower turned off. Vanessa quickly put the phone back exactly where it was. David emerged in a towel. Hey, I didn't hear you come in. Vanessa's heart pounded, but her voice stayed steady. Just bringing dinner. I'll leave you to it. She walked out calmly, made it to the main house, locked the door, then broke down. Silent scream. Sarah rushed in. What happened? Vanessa showed her phone. She'd photographed David's texts. It was all fake. Every word, every tear, every moment with Grace. It was all to get me to destroy the evidence. Sarah read with growing horror. Oh my God. And I almost fell for it. I almost destroyed the real files. Vanessa's voice shook. Grace. Grace started crying in her bassinet. Vanessa picked her up, held her close. They're never going to stop. They'll never stop trying to take you from me. Detective Rivera arrived an hour later. Vanessa had called him immediately. He showed her his tablet, photos taken over the past week. I've been following David. Your mother would have wanted you to know. The photos corroborated everything. David meeting Claudia at the coffee shop. David meeting with Dr. Peterson at the hospital. David entering Judge Morgan's house, not her office, her home. The reconciliation was always a con. They're moving forward with emergency custody Friday at 2 p.m. That's in 48 hours. Vanessa felt sick. But the gala is Friday at 7 p.m. That's just 5 hours after the hearing. They're timing it so you'll have lost custody before you can go public. By the time your gala happens, they'll have Grace, and you'll look like a bitter ex-wife making false accusations. Can you arrest them now for conspiracy? Not without more evidence. Text messages aren't enough. They'll claim they were joking or misunderstood. We need them to act. James arrived next, face grim. Judge Morgan just moved the hearing up, tomorrow, 9 a.m. Sarah jumped up. They're accelerating the timeline. Catherine appeared on video call. They know the gala is coming. They're trying to secure Grace before you can expose them. Vanessa's voice came out quiet, devastated. So in 12 hours, they take my baby, and there's nothing I can do. That night, Vanessa sat in the nursery rocking chair, holding sleeping Grace. Sarah stood in the doorway, both of them exhausted, frightened, out of options. I can't let them take her. I can't. We'll fight this. James will. James can't fight a rigged judge. Can't fight fake psychiatric reports. Can't fight a system designed to protect wealthy families like the Reynolds. Vanessa's voice turned desperate. I have one choice. I run. Tonight. Take Grace and disappear. Use my mother's money to vanish. V, if you run, they'll call it kidnapping. You'll be a fugitive. I don't care as long as Grace is safe. She stood, started packing a diaper bag with shaking hands. We'll go to Canada, then Europe, somewhere they can't find us. Sarah looked torn. And spend the rest of your life looking over your shoulder? Teaching Grace to hide? That's not living. It's better than losing her. Grace woke, started crying. Vanessa picked her up, tears streaming down her face. I'm sorry, baby girl. Mama tried to be strong, but sometimes running is the only way to keep you safe. Headlights appeared in the driveway. Detective Rivera and James Morrison. Emergency meeting at 2 a.m. Everyone gathered in the living room, exhausted and desperate. James pulled out a final sealed envelope, thick and heavy. Your mother left this, marked, when all else fails. Vanessa opened it with shaking hands. Inside were 6 USB drives, a letter from Margaret, and legal documents. She read the letter aloud, her voice breaking. My darling girl, if you're reading this, they're trying to take Grace. I'm so sorry I'm not there to protect you both. But I can do this. For 6 months before I died, I had Detective Rivera install listening devices in the Reynolds home. With their permission? Of course not. Legal? Probably not. Admissible in court? Definitely not. But leverage? Absolutely. These drives contain audio of Linda and Robert planning your destruction. Planning to use David. Planning to take Grace. Planning everything. You can't use this in court, but you can use it to make them afraid. You can use it to force their hand. You can make them destroy themselves by trying to cover up what they've done. Trust your team. Trust yourself. Trust that sometimes fighting dirty is the only way to protect something precious. I love you forever. Mom, Vanessa looked at Rivera. You bugged their house? Your mother paid me to install surveillance. Audio and video, every room except bathrooms and bedrooms. 6 months of recordings. Catherine's voice came through the screen. Holy shit. James looked troubled. This is ethically complicated. Can we use it at the gala? Not in court, but nothing stops you from playing it at a private event. It's your mother's property. You inherited it. Rivera nodded. And once it's public, the DA will have to investigate. Public pressure. But they're taking Grace in 7 hours. The gala is 12 hours away. How does this help? Catherine leaned toward her camera. You don't go to the hearing. Everyone stared at the screen. What? If you're not there, they can't take Grace. They'll issue a contempt order, but that takes time. Meanwhile, you go ahead with the gala tonight. Make everything public, then turn yourself in. You'll be arrested, Sarah protested. For what? Missing a hearing? Vanessa looked at James. What's the penalty? Contempt of court, usually a fine, maybe short jail time, but nothing compared to losing Grace. Rivera added, and once the recordings are public, the judge who issued the warrants will be under investigation too. She won't be able to rule against you. Vanessa looked at Grace sleeping in her arms, at her team, her mother's team. So I go into hiding for 12 hours, miss the hearing, go to the gala, expose everything, then deal with consequences. That's the play. Where do I hide? I have a safe house. Off the books. They'll never find you. Vanessa looked around at each face. Sarah, James, Catherine on screen, Rivera, all of them willing to risk everything to protect her and Grace. This is insane. Your mother planned it, Sarah said softly. My mother was insane. Your mother was a genius, Catherine corrected. Beat. Decision time. Vanessa stood, holding Grace close. Okay, we do it. All of it. I'm done playing defense. She met each person's eyes. Let's show them what happens when you threaten a Lawson woman's child. The Four Seasons ballroom gleamed under crystal chandeliers. 800 guests in formal wear, media everywhere, cameras capturing everything. The banner read, Margaret Lawson Foundation Inaugural Gala. Foundation displays showed planned initiatives, women's shelters, legal aid clinics, education programs. Everything looked legitimate because it was legitimate. This was real work that would continue long after tonight. The Reynolds family arrived at 7 p.m., dressed to kill. Linda in pearls and predatory confidence. Robert in his best suit. David between them, looking almost triumphant. They thought they'd won. Vanessa had missed the hearing that morning. An arrest warrant had been issued for contempt. CPS had been granted temporary custody. Grace was supposedly in protective care while the system sorted everything out. What they didn't know was that Grace was with Detective Rivera, safely hidden, while Vanessa prepared for the most important performance of her life. Claudia emerged from the restroom, no longer hiding. Back with David publicly, hand on her flat stomach despite supposedly being 7 months pregnant. Still no visible bump because there was no baby. There had never been a baby. Reporters approached. Mr. Reynolds, is it true there's a custody dispute? David's response was smooth, practiced. It's a private family matter. We're just here to support Margaret Lawson's foundation. And they took seats in the VIP section. Catherine had arranged it. Keep your enemies close. At 7:30, the lights dimmed slightly. A murmur of anticipation rippled through the crowd. Spotlight on the entrance. Vanessa Lawson walked in. Not alone. She carried Grace, 3 months old now, awake and looking around with curious eyes. Designer gown, head held high, flanked by Sarah and Detective Rivera, his badge visible. The entire ballroom went silent. David stood, face draining of color. How do you have her? There's a court order. Rivera stepped forward. Mr. Reynolds, I suggest you sit down. David sat. Linda's face showed rage and panic mixed. She'd been so certain of victory. Vanessa walked to the stage, placed Grace in Sarah's arms. Sarah stayed stage side where the baby would be visible to everyone, a living reminder of what this was really about. Vanessa took the podium. A screen descended behind her. She looked out at 800 faces, at cameras broadcasting live to 50,000 viewers, at the people who tried to destroy her sitting in the front row. Thank you all for being here tonight. Her voice was steady, clear, powerful. 3 months of pain and planning crystallized into this moment. 3 months ago, I buried my mother at Oakland Cemetery. It was the worst day of my life, not just because I lost the woman who raised me, but because it was also the day my husband chose to end our marriage. Murmurs rippled through the crowd. Everyone knew this story from social media, but hearing it directly was different. He handed me divorce papers at her graveside while they were lowering her casket, while the priest was praying. I was 7 months pregnant with his child. Cameras flashed, reporters leaned forward. This was already better than they'd hoped. I share this not for sympathy, but for context, because what happened next is a story about underestimation, about people who mistake kindness for weakness, about the danger of assuming you know someone's worth. Click, the screen lit up with a professional photo of Margaret, confident, intelligent, powerful. My mother spent 30 years building a fortune nobody knew about. $500 million across investments, real estate, business ventures. She lived modestly, worked quietly, let everyone underestimate her. Numbers appeared on screen, property deeds, investment statements, all documented, all real. Because she understood something profound. The best protection is invisibility until you're ready to be seen. Beat. She left it all to me, every dollar, every property, and she left me something else too. Click. Instructions, guidance, evidence. The evidence dump began methodically, devastatingly. First, David and Claudia's affair. Text messages, timestamped 10 months before the funeral, hotel receipts, photos of them together. Timeline proving the affair started long before David claimed. Gasps throughout the ballroom. Heads turning to stare at David, who'd gone pale. My husband didn't leave me spontaneously. He was groomed to leave by a woman who saw opportunity. Next, Claudia's fake pregnancy. Her text messages to a friend. Claudia, the pregnancy trick works every time. Just need prosthetics and fake ultrasounds. He's too stupid to question it. Friend, what if he wants to go to appointments? Claudia, I'll handle it. Men like him believe what they want to believe. The ballroom erupted, people turning to stare at Claudia, who'd gone white, frozen in her seat. Claudia Bennington is a professional con artist. 7 prior fraud charges across 3 states. She's not pregnant. She's never been pregnant. David stood up, face red. That's a lie. Rivera stood, badge out. Mr. Reynolds, sit down or you'll be escorted out. David sat, looked at Claudia. Are you really not pregnant? Claudia said nothing. Guilt written across her face. Third, Linda's payment. Bank transfer on screen for everyone to see. From Linda Reynolds to Claudia Foster. Amount, $15,000. Date, 3 weeks before Margaret's funeral. Memo, as discussed. My mother-in-law paid David's mistress $15,000 to ensure he followed through with the divorce. Linda stood screaming, "This is slander. This is illegal. Where did you get—" Bank records, Mrs. Reynolds. All legal, all documented. Fourth, the reconciliation con. Recent text messages between Linda and David. Linda, has she destroyed the investigation files yet? David, working on it, building trust. Linda, work faster. Once evidence is gone, we take grace. The ballroom descended into chaos. People standing, shouting, media rushing to file stories. Cameras everywhere capturing the Reynolds family's public destruction. 2 weeks ago, David came to me asking for another chance, asking to be part of Grace's life. I wanted to believe people could change. Vanessa's voice hardened, but it was a trap to get me to destroy evidence, to get access to my daughter. The audio bombshell came next. My mother prepared for this too. For 6 months before she died, she had the Reynolds home monitored as audio recordings of every conversation. James stood. For legal clarity, these recordings were made on private property with permission of the property owner. Margaret Lawson was part owner of the Reynolds family home through a trust structure, completely legal. It was a gray area at best, but it sounded official. I'm going to play 60 seconds. That's all you need to hear. Click. Linda's voice crystal clear through the ballroom speakers. Once we have custody, we control access to Vanessa's fortune through child support. David will get millions. Robert's voice. And the girl will never know her mother was anything but unstable. Linda again. Exactly. We'll make sure everyone knows she was unfit. Postpartum depression. Dangerous. David's voice weak. What if she fights back? Linda. With what? Once you get her to destroy the evidence, she has nothing. The audio stopped. The ballroom was in absolute chaos. Everyone yelling, reporters rushing toward exits, cameras flashing like lightning. Detective Rivera took the microphone. For the record, I'm Detective Michael Rivera, Atlanta Police Department, Financial Crimes Division. Everything you just saw and heard was submitted to the District Attorney's Office 48 hours ago. Warrants were issued this morning. Police officers entered from multiple doors. We allowed this event to proceed because Mrs. Lawson wanted you, their peers, to know the truth before they could spin the story. Officers approached the Reynolds table. David Reynolds, conspiracy to commit fraud, attempted custodial interference, wire fraud. Handcuffs clicked onto David's wrists. He looked at Vanessa with something like disbelief, as if he couldn't fathom that she'd actually won. Linda Reynolds, filing false federal reports, bribery of public officials, conspiracy to commit kidnapping, obstruction of justice. More handcuffs. Linda's perfect composure finally shattered. She started crying, mascara running. Robert Reynolds, embezzlement, charity fraud, tax evasion, conspiracy. Robert went quietly. He knew he was caught. Claudia Bennington, fraud, identity theft, extortion under false pretenses. Claudia tried to run. Officers blocked the exit. She was cuffed, screaming. He made me do it. He promised me money. David being led away. I never promised you. We were in this together. They were all escorted out as media filmed everything. The scandal of the year captured on dozens of cameras, broadcast live to thousands of viewers. The ballroom still buzzed with energy. Vanessa took the microphone again, holding Grace now. Her baby looked around at all the lights with wide, innocent eyes. My mother taught me the best revenge isn't anger. It's patience or beat. She knew what they'd do. She prepared for everything. And she taught me that real power isn't about money. It's about using whatever you have to protect the people you love. She looked down at Grace. The Margaret Lawson Foundation will support women leaving abusive situations, children who need advocates, anyone who's been told they're not enough. Beat. Starting tonight with a $75 million endowment. Thunderous applause. People standing. This was justice and charity combined. Revenge that served a higher purpose. Vanessa looked directly at the cameras broadcasting live. They wanted to bury me at my mother's grave, but paused for effect. They forgot I'm her daughter. Another pause. I don't stay buried. The standing ovation was deafening. Media frenzy beyond anything Catherine had predicted. The story would dominate news cycles for weeks. Vanessa walked off stage holding Grace, feeling the weight of months lifting. It was done. Finally, completely done. 6 months later, courtrooms became the stage for the final act. David's sentencing came first. He stood in an orange jumpsuit, shackled, looking 20 years older than the man who'd handed Vanessa divorce papers at a funeral. Mr. Reynolds, 6 years federal prison, 10 years probation upon release. Parental rights terminated. The gavel fell. David was led away. He looked back once at Vanessa, sitting in the gallery. She met his eyes with no expression, no anger, no satisfaction, just finality. Linda and Robert's sentencing happened in a separate courtroom. Mrs. Reynolds, 8 years federal prison. Linda's perfect facade finally crumbled completely. She sobbed, mascara streaked and broken. The woman who'd orchestrated so much cruelty reduced to desperate pleading that fell on deaf ears. Mr. Reynolds, 12 years federal prison, $2.3 million in restitution. Robert accepted it stoically. He knew this was coming. News coverage was extensive. Reynolds' family convicted on all counts. Judge Patricia Morgan disbarred for judicial misconduct. Claudia Bennington sentenced to 5 years. Margaret Lawson Foundation helps 1,500 families in first 6 months. The story became a symbol. Every person who'd been underestimated, betrayed, told they weren't enough. They saw themselves in Vanessa's journey. The response was overwhelming. 1 year after the gala, Vanessa visited David in prison. She brought photos of Grace, walking now, starting to talk, growing into a beautiful toddler. The visiting room was cold, institutional. David entered looking aged, broken. He'd had a lot of time to think about his choices. She's walking now, starting to talk. She calls Sarah Auntie. Vanessa slid photos across the table. David's hands shook as he picked them up, tears streaming down his face. She's beautiful. She looks like you. She has your eyes, your smile. Beat. I wanted to show you these so you know what you lost, not to be cruel, but so you understand. I understand every day. His voice was hollow. I dream about that cemetery, about handing you those papers. I wake up knowing I destroyed everything that mattered for things that never existed. When you get out, if you get parole, you can petition for supervised visits, maybe. If you've changed, if you've done the work. Will you let me? I don't know. That's a question for 6 years from now, Vanessa. Today's Vanessa just wanted you to see your daughter, even if it's only in photos. She stood to leave. Vanessa? His voice cracked. I'm sorry, I know that doesn't fix anything. But I am. I know you are. But sorry doesn't raise a child. Goodbye, David. She walked out without looking back. That chapter was closed. Spring came to Atlanta with flowers and birdsong. Vanessa pushed a stroller through Oakland Cemetery, Grace toddling beside it, practicing her unsteady walk. They reached Margaret's grave. Vanessa spread a blanket and sat with Grace, who immediately began investigating grass and flowers with intense toddler concentration. Hey, Mom, it's been a while. She arranged fresh flowers in the vase. The foundation opened its fourth shelter last month. Sarah's running operations. She's amazing at it. We've helped over 2,000 families now. Grace babbled, pulling grass. Grace is walking. Well, wobbling. Very determined, though. Wonder where she gets that. Emotional beat. David's in prison. He writes letters. I don't respond. Maybe someday Grace will want to know him. That's her choice to make. Grace toddled to the gravestone, touched it with tiny hands. I wanted to tell you something. I'm not angry anymore. I thought winning would feel like victory, but it just feels like peace, like I can breathe. She watched Grace explore with fearless curiosity. You gave me more than money, Mom. You gave me proof that I was worth protecting, that Grace was worth fighting for. Her voice broke slightly. I miss you every day. I wish you were here to see her, to see what we built. Grace toddled back, fell into Vanessa's lap, giggling. Say hi to Grandma Margaret. Grace waved her tiny hand at the gravestone. Mama! First clear word, Vanessa froze, tears of joy streaming down her face. Yes, baby, Mama, I'm your mama. She held Grace close, and Grandma Margaret is watching over both of us. The second annual Margaret Lawson Foundation Gala was different from the first, smaller, more intimate. 200 guests instead of 800. The women and children helped by the foundation were guests of honor, real faces, real stories of survival and rebuilding. Vanessa took the stage with confidence earned through fire. Grace was with Sarah backstage, visible on a monitor, a callback to the first gala, but this time for joy rather than proof. Last year, we held a gala that went viral. Tonight, I hope we go viral for the right reasons. Laughter from the crowd, warm, genuine. The Margaret Lawson Foundation has helped 2,100 families this year. 4 shelters, 3 legal clinics, education grants for 300 women rebuilding their lives. The screen showed real people, real transformations, not celebrities or society figures, but women who'd escaped abuse, children who'd found safety, families who'd been given second chances. My mother taught me that power isn't about being seen, it's about being ready. Beat. But she also taught me, after you fight, you build. After you win, you heal. After you survive, you help others survive. She raised her glass. To Margaret Lawson, who taught me the best revenge isn't destroying your enemies. It's building something so beautiful they can never touch it. The applause was genuine, heartfelt. This wasn't about scandal or exposure anymore. This was about the work continuing, growing, making real differences in real lives. That night after the gala, Vanessa carried sleeping Grace upstairs to the nursery. She placed her daughter in the crib gently, covered her with a soft blanket. On the wall hung framed photos of 3 generations, Margaret holding baby Vanessa, Vanessa holding baby Grace, a legacy of strength passing from mother to daughter to granddaughter. Vanessa touched both photos. We did it, Mom. We're safe, we're strong, we're using your gift exactly how you wanted. She walked to the window, looked out at the estate grounds, city lights twinkling in the distance. Her mother's voice echoed in her mind. Words from letters, from memories, from a lifetime of lessons. My darling girl, if you're hearing this, you survived, you fought, you won. Now comes the hard part. Learning to live without anger. Don't let power become your prison. Use it to build something beautiful. Show Grace what strength looks like. I love you beyond measure. I'm so proud of the woman you have become. Vanessa closed her eyes. One tear escaped, but it was a good tear. Release, not pain. She opened her eyes and looked at Grace one more time. Her daughter slept peacefully, unaware of the battles fought to protect her, the empire built to secure her future, the grandmother who'd planned for everything. Okay, Mom, I'm ready. Vanessa turned off the light and walked down the hallway with confident strides. Not running from anything anymore. Not fighting invisible enemies. Just living, building, being the mother and philanthropist and strong woman Margaret had raised her to be. The camera of her mind held on the nursery door for a moment. Then on Margaret's photo, her eyes seeming to know something, to approve of how everything had unfolded. Grace Lawson, now 7 years old, sat in her mother's library doing homework. Math problems spread across the den, but she kept glancing at the photo on the wall, a black and white portrait of a woman she'd never met but felt like she knew. Mama, tell me again about Grandma Margaret. Vanessa looked up from her laptop where she was reviewing foundation proposals. She smiled, closed the computer, and walked over to sit beside her daughter. Your grandmother was the smartest person I ever knew. She understood something important, that being underestimated is a gift, not an insult. What does underestimated mean? It means people think you can't do something. They think you're not smart enough, or strong enough, or capable enough. Vanessa tucked Grace's hair behind her ear. Your grandmother let people think that about her, and while they weren't paying attention, she built an empire. Like a princess? Better than a princess, like a queen who made her own kingdom instead of inheriting one. Grace considered this seriously. Is that why we have the foundation? Because of what Grandma built? Exactly. She built it so we could help people who are going through hard times, so they don't have to face their battles alone. The way Uncle James and Aunt Catherine helped you. Vanessa smiled at the names. James Morrison and Catherine Blake had become part of their family, honorary uncle and aunt who'd stood by them through everything. Yes, and the way Aunt Sarah helped me. When people feel alone and scared, having someone believe in them can change everything. Grace returned to her math problems, working through them with determined concentration that reminded Vanessa so much of Margaret it hurt in a good way. The Margaret Lawson Foundation had grown beyond anything Vanessa had imagined. 7 shelters across 3 states, legal clinics in 5 cities, education programs that had helped over 500 women complete degrees and certifications. The foundation had become a model for others, a blueprint for how inherited wealth could be transformed into lasting change. Sarah Mitchell was indeed the COO now, having left nursing to run operations full-time. She was brilliant at it, bringing both compassion and organizational efficiency that made the foundation run smoothly. Detective Michael Rivera had been promoted to captain and still occasionally stopped by to check on them. Not as an investigator anymore, but as a friend who'd seen them through the darkest times. Catherine Blake managed the investment portfolio with the same strategic genius Margaret had employed. The $500 million had grown to over $700 million through careful stewardship, generating even more funding for the foundation's work. James Morrison remained their attorney and advisor, though his role had shifted from legal warfare to estate planning and foundation governance. He was in his mid-60s now, thinking about retirement, but not quite ready to step away from the family he had helped protect. The Reynolds family had scattered to the winds. David served 4.5 years before being released for good behavior. He worked at a warehouse now, attended mandatory therapy, paid child support that Vanessa deposited directly into a trust for Grace. He'd written dozens of letters over the years. Vanessa had saved them all but never responded. That door remained closed, perhaps forever. Linda Reynolds had been released after 6 years. She lived in a small apartment alone, estranged from her son who blamed her for everything. The society that had once revered her wanted nothing to do with her now. Robert Reynolds had died in prison 3 years into his sentence. Heart attack. David had been allowed to attend the funeral under guard. Linda had attended alone. The family dynasty had crumbled completely. Claudia Bennington had served 3 years and disappeared under a new name. Detective Rivera occasionally got tips about new cons being run, possibly by her, but she'd learned to be more careful. Some people never changed. Judge Patricia Morgan had been disbarred and faced ongoing civil litigation from families whose cases she'd mishandled. Her legacy was one of corruption exposed, injustice delayed, but ultimately served. On Grace's 7th birthday, Vanessa took her to the cemetery. Not a sad visit, but a tradition they'd developed, bringing flowers, telling stories, keeping Margaret's memory alive. Grace ran ahead to the grave, her energy boundless. She placed a bouquet of sunflowers against the headstone. Hi, Grandma Margaret. I'm 7 today. Mama says 7 is a lucky number. Vanessa caught up, carrying a blanket and picnic basket. They spread out beside the grave, eating sandwiches and birthday cake, talking about everything and nothing. Mama, do you think Grandma Margaret would be proud of me? Vanessa pulled Grace close. I know she would be. She'd be so proud of how smart you are, how kind you are, how you care about people who need help. Like the kids who come to our shelter? Exactly like them. Grace was quiet for a moment, then said something that took Vanessa's breath away. When I grow up, I want to help people too, like you and Grandma Margaret. I want to make sure nobody feels alone when bad things happen. Vanessa's eyes filled with tears. Then that's exactly what you'll do. 3 generations of Lawson women, Margaret who'd built the foundation, Vanessa who'd protected and expanded it, and Grace who would carry it into the future. Not through obligation, but through genuine desire to continue the work. That evening, back at the estate, they hosted a small birthday party. Sarah came with her girlfriend of 2 years, a relationship that made Vanessa happy to see after all Sarah had sacrificed to help her. James and Catherine brought gifts. Rivera stopped by with his family. Other friends from the foundation, from Grace's school, from the community they'd built. As the party wound down and guests departed, Grace fell asleep on the couch, exhausted from excitement. Vanessa carried her upstairs, tucked her into bed, and stood for a moment looking at her daughter's peaceful face. She thought about the woman she'd been 7 years ago, pregnant, grieving, betrayed, standing at her mother's grave while her husband destroyed her world. That woman had been so lost, so broken, so certain that everything good had ended. She couldn't have imagined this. The strength she'd find, the empire she'd inherit, the justice she'd secure, the foundation she'd build, the daughter she'd raised to be strong and kind and certain of her worth. But Margaret had imagined it, had planned for it, had built every tool Vanessa would need and left instructions for how to use them. "Thank you, Mom," Vanessa whispered to the darkness, "for everything, for seeing what I couldn't see, for believing I was strong enough when I didn't believe it myself, for teaching me that patience is power and that the best revenge is building something beautiful." She turned to leave, then paused. One more thing needed to be said. "And thank you for Grace, for giving me a reason to fight when I wanted to give up, for making sure your granddaughter would grow up safe and loved and strong." The house settled into nighttime quiet. Vanessa walked downstairs to the library, poured herself tea, and sat at her mother's desk. The same desk where she'd found that first letter, the key, the beginning of understanding. On the desk sat a letter she was writing to Grace to be opened when her daughter turned 18. Vanessa picked up her pen and continued, "My dearest Grace, if you're reading this, you're embarking on your own journey into adulthood. By now you know the story of your grandmother Margaret, of how she built an empire in secret and used it to protect me when I needed it most. But what you might not fully understand yet is the most important lesson she taught me, and the one I hope to teach you. Wealth is not measured in dollars. Power is not measured in control. Success is not measured in victories over enemies. The true measure of a life well lived is in how many people are better off because you existed, how many lives you touched, how much darkness you turned into light. Your grandmother didn't build a fortune for the sake of having money. She built it as a tool to protect those she loved, to help those who needed it, to show that a woman dismissed as just a bookkeeper could change the world. I inherited her fortune, but more importantly, I inherited her mission. And now I'm passing both to you, not as a burden, but as an opportunity. You don't have to run the foundation if you don't want to. You can be anything, do anything. Your inheritance guarantees you that freedom. But I truly hope, that you'll choose to continue the work. Not because you have to, but because you understand, as your grandmother and I did, that protecting and empowering others is the highest purpose we can serve. 3 things I want you to always remember. First, being underestimated is a gift. Let people underestimate you. Then prove them wrong by succeeding beyond their imagination. Second, patience is the greatest weapon. Don't react in anger. Plan, prepare. Strike when the time is right, not when emotion demands it. Third, the best revenge is building something so beautiful, so good, so impactful, that your enemies realize they destroyed themselves by underestimating you. You are my greatest joy, Grace. Watching you grow into a thoughtful, compassionate, brilliant young woman has been the privilege of my life. Whatever you choose to do, wherever life takes you, know that both your grandmothers are proud of you. Margaret, who you never met, but who loved you enough to plan for your future before you were born, and me, who gets to watch you become the extraordinary person I always knew you would be. The Lawson women are strong. We endure, we survive, we thrive, and we never ever stay buried. All my love, forever and always, Mom. Vanessa set down the pen, sealed the letter, and placed it in the safe where it would wait for Grace's 18th birthday. She turned off the library lights and walked through the house one final time, checking locks, turning off lights, preparing for tomorrow. Tomorrow, she had a meeting with investors interested in expanding the foundation internationally. The day after, a board meeting to approve 3 new shelter locations. Next week, a speech at a conference about empowering women after trauma. The work continued. Margaret's work, passed to Vanessa, soon to be passed to Grace. A legacy not of revenge, but of resilience. Not of destruction, but of building. Not of bitterness, but of transformation. Vanessa paused at the portrait of Margaret hanging in the hallway. Her mother's eyes seemed to look at her with approval, with love, with the satisfaction of a mission accomplished. "We're okay, Mom. We're more than okay. We're exactly who you raised us to be." She climbed the stairs, checked on Grace one last time, her daughter sleeping peacefully, safe in a home built by her grandmother's genius and her mother's courage. And Vanessa Lawson, once broken at a graveside, once left with nothing but grief and betrayal, went to bed in a home filled with love, surrounded by proof that strength could be inherited, that justice could be won, and that a woman underestimated was the most dangerous force in the world. The story that began with ashes and ended with empire was complete, but the legacy, the real legacy, would continue for generations.